Hello everyone, my name is Kimberly Diaz and today I'll be presenting my final project for Communications 1 to 2. For my final project, I had to choose a co-culture, and for my co-culture, I chose the first generation college student because I was a first generation college student when I grew up in the United States after I moved from Honduras when I was 12, so I am the first person in my family to graduate from college in the United States. For my co-culture, I have chosen 3 of Hofstede's cultural dimensions, which would be masculinity versus femininity, uncertainty avoidance complex, and power dynamic or power distance index. So, for masculinity versus femininity, I have chosen my co-culture to be medium in masculinity versus femininity, since as a first generation individual who is getting an education, there will be a medium dimension under masculinity versus femininity, mainly in people of color households. The typical careers that are admirable to choose would be in the range of medicine and the range of law. In a high masculine culture like African, Latin, and Asian, the socio-economical norms are ego-oriented. This is due to the fact that masculinity culture prevails and it emphasizes and admires the traits of ambition and acquisition of wealth. This explains the medium masculinity dimension in first-generation college students, which are usually getting a degree in order to achieve a better quality of life. More specifically, it is important to highlight that in this masculine perspective, they are also ensuring a better future for their families now and in the future, since in high masculine cultures, traditional family structures are the norm. As a first-generation college student, the femininity culture overlaps with the masculine. In feminine cultures, individuals are striving or fighting for a smaller gender wage gap. For the first-generation college student who is not only trying to live with the culture they've been raised at home, they are also trying to live with the culture that is living outside their home, so the system that works to or against their favor. So the average first generation college student has to choose whether they want to be a provider or whether they want to follow their dream and, provide for themselves or provide for the family for the rest of their life. Which is also one of the reasons why I have chosen my co-culture to have high uncertainty avoidance. There are many things that our first generation college student has to face, especially those who are of Asian, African, and Latinx descent living in the United States. Hofstede suggests that lower uncertainty avoidance cultures, such as the United States, have the feeling of uncertainty about outcomes and is that uncertainty of feeling is accepted as a part of day-to-day life, and stress and anxiety is lower, aggression and emotions should not be shown, and agreeableness scores are higher. However, in the United States, there is a ton more stress living within the average first-generation college student. In the case of first-generation students, you already feel at an economic and sociological disadvantage because you're either the first in your family to go to college or because you are the first in your family to go to college in the United States. So your family members might have no idea what you're doing outside the home, but you're the one who's taking one step ahead of them in a whole different culture, in a whole different world. This causes the individual to live at a high uncertainty avoidance culture. On the other hand, in low uncertainty avoidance cultures are even noted as being more comfortable with taking risks without knowing the outcomes. This can mean that it allows the college student to make this adjustment of low uncertainty culture, and it can lead them to make wiser choices by attempting to not always go by the rulebook. But the average first-generation college student may not have the opportunity to explore more than the path that has been laid down for them, especially a path that is ruled by systemic racism. So the reason why they constantly live with high uncertainty avoidance is because they also are at an alarming rate of, could I actually get this job? Could I not get this job? They're constantly living paycheck to paycheck because they don't come from a family that has wealth built for them. They usually have to pay for their own college or go through scholarships, which is why they live at a high uncertain index. So for the power distance index, I have chosen my co-culture to have low power distance index. Under Hofstede's cultural dimensions, Power distance is defined as the extent to which less powerful members of society accept and expect that power is distributed unequally. In the low power distance nations like the US and most of Western Europe countries, these populations have a negative perspective of authority and consider equality of rights and opportunity extremely important. In the case of a first generation college student, one is coming to terms with whether we want to conform with the working class or to be subservient to a corporation that is 9 to 5. It is really about whether or not we can make our dreams come true or not. In the low power distance cultures, equality is stressed in all types of environments. And when it comes to a first generation college student, they usually have to constantly deal with inequalities that are inevitable, which is why we consider them to have low power distance, since they are growing up in a society in which they are trying to step out of a working class unequal cycle by being the first in the family to get a college degree, and most likely being the first in the family to have enormous amount of student loan debts and maybe mortgages and so on and so forth, which is why I would consider them to be a strong group of people who have voiced the fact that they have a low power index. I hope you liked my project. I had a lot of fun doing research. I unfortunately have only found 2 sources, which would be by Susan McDonough and Scarlett Rosier about Hofstede's cultural dimensions in high uncertainty and power index. So I hope you liked it. Thank you so much.